Bismillah, assalamu alaikum. Testing. Bismillah, assalamu alaikum. Okay, now we are live. We should be live.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another enlightening episode of Al-Muminat Podcast. This is a space where we as believers come together to reflect on the wisdom of the Quran, share insights, and strengthen our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether you're joining us for the first time or a regular listener, I pray that this session enriches your heart, mind, and soul. Today we will begin with Surat Al-Baqarah, Ayah 220, and our speaker for this session is Sister Hanan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding and allow these reflections to guide us towards bettering ourselves and our communities. Jazkallahkheir for joining. Let's begin.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, today, inshallah, we're going to start on Ayah 220 in Surat Al-Baqarah. First, I'd like to thank all of you for coming, inshallah, and share this circle of knowledge. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to benefit all of us of knowledge. The Prophet ﷺ, was commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ask him to increase him in knowledge and to benefit him from knowledge. And this is, subhanallah, yani, something that we need to take it to heart. Every time you attend a class, you have to know that this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to hear. And you came to this lesson or to this circle of knowledge for a reason, for a purpose, it was by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm sure every one of us, inshallah, can leave this session or can leave this class, inshallah, with something beneficial. And the most important thing about knowledge is to understand knowledge, we need to apply the knowledge. And it doesn't have to be something overburdened. Today, inshallah, in our verses, we're going to learn how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants ease for the believers. He never intend to make it hard for us anything. So whatever it is that if we can take this principle to life, if we can take this principle to really practice it, to take things easy and to learn to be steady and to be persistent in the knowledge, we can benefit so much from it. طيب. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن يا مولانا إن شئت سهلا. Inshallah, I'm going to read verse 220, and inshallah I will ask Samah inshallah to do the interpretation. Then we're going to go through the tafsir. After that, inshallah, we hope that we have some time for questions if you have any. طيب. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كذلك يبين الله لكم الآيات لعلكم تتفكرون في الدنيا والآخرة ويسألونك عن اليتامى قل إصلاح لهم خير وإن تخالطوهم فإخوانكم والله يعلم المفسد من المصلح ولو شاء الله لعنتكم إن الله عزيز حكيم. Can you start, please, Samah, from the last two lines from the previous ayah?
Sure. Say whatever you can spare. This is how God makes his revelations clear to you believers. So perhaps you may reflect upon this world and the hereafter. And they ask you, O Prophet, concerning orphans, say improving their conditions is best, and if you partner with them, they are bonded with you in faith. And God knows who intends harm and who intends good. Had God willed, he could have made it difficult for you. Surely God is almighty, all-wise.
Jazkallahkheir. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إن شئت سهلا. What's so strange about بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم? What's so strange about the verse 220 that it started with continuation of the previous verse, which is like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, كذلك يبين الله لكم الآيات لعلكم تتفكرون. Thus does make reveal verses clear to you so they may reflect on them in relation to the affairs of this world and the consequences of the hereafter. So the previous verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started to talk about spending. And they ask about spending. What should we spend? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in every time they ask question, and like we said, we mentioned many times, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed a Quran in the form of the questions of the Sahaba. Why Allah preserved their questions? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relate their questions to us? He could have just revealed rules and regulation. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we talked before about the importance of questions, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to preserve the process of learning, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to honor those who ask questions for the sake of learning, for the sake of applying what they learn. And you can see that when we talked about asking questions last time, and we're going to continue about the questions that the Sahaba, which is Sahaba asked the Prophet ﷺ, you will see that the questions were not so many in the Quran. It was only about 13 questions. Most of them were in Surat Al-Baqarah. But they only asked what was important for them to learn. And what was important to them for learn is the sources of that was what? Was what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encouraged them to do, and what the Prophet ﷺ emphasized it also through his sunnah and his ahadith. So everything that they saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasize, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explained the highest reward of it, they wanted that reward. They were having this kind of appetite. And this is something I remember one of the scholars mentioned in one of his convention when he said, do you want to know the measure if the faith is still strong inside of you? If all of us, we have at certain time, sometimes you have the strength of that faith, or you have the how can I say, the power of that faith is so strong, the motivation is so high, and sometimes you don't have that. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that hadith, and he said it's okay. That scholar, he said, do you want to know the measure of that? Look at how much do you have appetite to do good, to learn more, how eager you are to ask questions about your deen, and to be curious about your religion in a good way. So you see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the previous verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about answering this question about the infaq, about the spending. And again, he wants to make it easy. He said, don't spend from what you need, just spend from what's extra. And then he said, we make it clear our verses, our ayat. We revealed clear our ayat. For what reason? So you may reflect on what? You may reflect on the affairs of this world and the consequences of hereafter. You spend for this world, also don't forget your hereafter to spend also. Today we're going to talk about different level of spending, different kind of spending. And not all the spending is money. People think that if I don't have money, I don't have much to spend. But actually spending is way much more than the money. So the Sahaba asked about, again, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْيَتَامَى, and they ask you concerning the orphans. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need to understand why the orphans, what is the context of this verse 220, and why it was important for them to ask about the orphans. Like we said before, when I mentioned before that they only ask about what concerned them. They only ask about what preoccupied their mind. So imagine they were concerned about the orphans. So we need to understand why, and we need to understand the context of that. So we have to understand that when Islam was revealed and established in Medina, Muslim community had a large number of orphans. And this is for several, it was there for, because of several reasons. One of the reason was the wars of early Islam. You need so many of the convert that came to Islam, they were persecuted and killed early, even before migration to Medina. They immigrated to Medina. They left behind children. Some of them also, they had so many orphans because of the battles, the Battle of Badr, the Battle of Uhud. So many of the good men during the Prophet ﷺ's time, so many of the Sahaba died. So this created what? It created many children without fathers, without someone to depend on to protect them, without financial stability, without social power, and no mean even to defend their rights. And we understand, subhanallah, that how Islam, when it came, you can see that the one of the first reason Islam increased in number is because the social justice. Even when you hear the Roman emperor, when he the army during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, after he did Sulh al-Hudaybiyah and the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, and he started to send messengers to all these emperors and kings, and they did ask about this religion, and one of the main signature of this religion was justice, social justice, that people can depend on its justice to prosper and to live in peace. And this is why you can see that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, he places extraordinary emphasis on caring for orphans, and he also emphasized severe warning against those who exploited them. Because before Islam, before the pre-Islamic tribe form, the tradition of the pre-Islamic era, orphans' wealth was taken. Children were abused psychologically. They didn't have any rights. They didn't have any place in a society. And no one defended them and defended their right. So Islam came to reverse that dynamic. It placed legal boundaries, strict financial rules. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called mistreatment of orphans a major sin. And subhanallah, that's why you can see that that Islam wanted to restore the dignity to the people who had no one to defend them. Caring for the orphans became a test of sincerity. It became a measure of true faith. And the Quran often uses guardianship and how to treat orphan is a test of moral characters. So you see that we're going to start now to understand the importance of orphans in the community, because first of all, this community, their fathers died defending this religion, defending the Prophet ﷺ, defending the deen, but also these young men, these young women, they will become the new generations. So imagine if you have generations of orphans grew up feeling helpless, hopeless. They have no one to take care of them. And in Islam, by the way, the yatim, the orphan, is the one whose father died, not the mother. And this is something very important to understand. So in Islam, the orphan is the one whose father died because he is the one who take care financially of them and defend them. And after they reach the state of puberty, they are not supposed to be called orphans anymore. So these are two rules when it comes to the orphan that we need to pay attention to. So now we understand why orphans took a major, or took, how can I say, a big part of the Sahaba's life and the community in Medina. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I said, he linked orphan care directly with taqwa and righteousness, even in Surat Al-Baqarah. I'm sure you passed by the ayah, they called it Ayah al-Birr. ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب, Ayah 177. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, righteousness is not just you pray toward the east or the west, but righteousness is about believing and is about acting. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that verse, he started by spending on the yatama. So you see the word yatama, you see the word orphans in most of the verses that talks about spending. Orphans take a major part of that. So the Sahaba wanted that. They wanted to teach themselves. يعني they want to increase themselves in taqwa. They want this highest act of worship to be on their scale. خلاص, it's part of their iman, and this is something that was very, very important. The second part is the Prophet ﷺ himself. Don't forget the Prophet ﷺ was an orphan too. He grew up without a father. He was born without a father, and his mother died when he was 6 years old. So when the Prophet was talking about the orphan, he talked from a place of understanding. What does it feel like? Subhanallah. It made him feel the pain of loneliness. And he talked about that a lot when he was explaining how he was in the house of his uncle, when he was raised among his cousins, and how he felt shy, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to eat before they finished. How he felt shy to eat without trying to earn money. The instability of his childhood, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, moving from a home to another home, from a shelter to another shelter, waiting for foster parents to take him in. It's such hard life. And how he had to depend on others to feed him, to clothe him, to even find for him work, to teach him. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, when he talked about the orphan, it was another level. Remember that hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he said, أَنَا وَكَافِلِ الْيَتِيمِ كَهَاتَيْنِ, I and the one who cares for an orphan will be like these two in paradise. And he joined the index and the middle fingers together. Yani he will be so close to me. Subhanallah. So you see, even that, the Sahaba, how the Prophet ﷺ, even when one of the Sahabi, one companion, he went to the Prophet ﷺ and he complained of the harshness of his heart. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I have harshness in my heart. And the Prophet ﷺ, how did he guide him to soften his heart? He said, go by an orphan, sit by an orphan, take care of an orphan. He said, even caress his hair, and give him kind of kindness that will soften your heart. So you can see the Sahaba competed to take care of the orphans. I want you to understand why they ask about the orphans. Subhanallah, and why the orphans was a major part, was important part of their life. And we can see that throughout history and throughout the seerah of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inside the seerah, it shows how the Sahaba used to compete to care for the orphan, to support them, to protect them, to be responsible for them. Some of the Sahaba, I remember there was a story of Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, a cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, who died in the Battle of Mu'tah, and he left behind children. How the Sahaba rushed to the Prophet ﷺ, eagerly wanted to compete for the reward of sponsoring him and take care of him. And Ibn Kathir even, and Al-Qurtubi also in Tafsir, they mentioned that Umar radiallahu anhu, when he used to pass by a home during his Khilafah, and he used to find a crying child, he will ask, is he an orphan? To make sure that he is not abused inside this house, because most of the orphans, they will be taken care by their relatives or by other subhanallah Sahaba. They will take them with their children. So he wanted to make sure that they are not abused, and they are fed and they are clothed. And he used to mark the house or the home of orphans. And every month, when he used to give for the poor and the needy, the orphans had a huge chunk of his distribution of food and clothes and money. And even not about, like I said before, in fact, has nothing to do only with money. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, we know all of us Abu Hurairah, the one that related most of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, huge chunk of hadith was related by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. And he was known to be extremely poor. He was known to be from the people of Sufa, the people who lived around the masjid because he did not have a home. Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, he used to sit with the orphans, teaching them the Quran, teaching them dua, and he used to make the dua, and he will make them stay around him and to say Ameen, because he understood that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will listen, will approve the dua if there is an orphan saying Ameen around him. So you can see that the support here was not only financially, was not only physically when it comes to clothes and food, but also it was about knowledge, about education. And this is something that opened for us a huge horizon when it comes to taking care of the orphan. Even spending time with them is something that has a high degree in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khalas? So why the Sahaba asked about orphans now? What is the context of that verse? The context of that verse is that verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, they are asking you about looking after the orphans, say setting their affair aright is best for you and them. So the Sahaba, this verse was not the first verse that was revealed when it comes to orphan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala earlier verses has already was sent in Surat Al-Nisa, warning severe punishment for those who exploit, betray, or abuse orphans' trust. You can see in Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is mentioning how don't approach orphan property except with good. Don't consume their wealth unjustly. Give them their property when they mature. There is a verse in Surah An-Nisa, number 10. It said, إِنَّ الذين يأكلون أموال اليتامى إنما يأكلون في بطونهم نارا وسيصلون سعيرا. Indeed, those who consume the wealth of orphans unjustly are only consuming fire in their bellies, and they will burn in a blaze. So you can see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warning anyone who will take care of an orphan, mistreating their wealth unjustly, mistreating their property, because a lot of the orphans also, they had property from their father, and the guardianship, and the guardian is the one who's going. Until today, by the way, we have that. Until today, we have even in some of the Middle East. I'm sure in Egypt they do have that. If the son died, the mother is not the guardian. They will give the guardianship to the grandfather if the grandfather is still alive, or they give it to the uncle if the uncle is still alive, and he's the one who's gonna supervise the state of the child, and will be able to manage it for them, for the mother and for the child. So you can see that it was given to people even if the mother is alive. But it was a clear warning. And because of those warning, the Sahaba, out of fear, the companion, they started to being extremely afraid to trespass or to from those kind of verse. And because they were extremely afraid, what did they do? The companion, they started to separate, putting the orphans' food to the level of food, because they were afraid to commit sin. They were afraid to fall into that sin. So accidentally, they were afraid to mix even their own wealth with the wealth of the orphan and fall into sin. So they started doing what? They started to do stuff that it brought them hardship. Like what? They will cook for the orphan by himself. They will choose for him his own utensils, his own pots. They will not cook in the pots of the orphan because they will be afraid to mix things with his food. So they will put the orphan's food on a side separately. When there is left over of the food, they will not mix it back with their food, and they will leave it to be spoiled. They will be counting, imagine, to the level of taqwa and the level of fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will count every date, grain, every coins of their money. They will keep the orphans' wealth totally isolated. And some of the Sahaba even avoided managing the money and the property of the orphans. Too much fear. So because of that and because of this hardship, what happened is that no one wanted to help the orphan managing their money. And because of that, you can see that many orphans that were young, they were weak, they were unable to manage their own money, so their property started to decrease, their money started to decrease because the guardian refused to touch it out of fear. So from now, and because of that, and because of this kind of hardship, the Sahaba and the companion approached the Prophet ﷺ. They approached him. How can we take care for orphans without risking sins? Is it allowed to mix our food and money and household with theirs? Imagine that. Imagine the depth and the detail of the questions because of their fear to commit sins and their fear to do something that is wrong or disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the deeper also side behind the question is, can we mix our money with their money? So this is why the verse was revealed, to organize this issue. And by the way, this verse became one of the deepest principles in Islamic ethics. And it became revolutionary for the society. Not only their society during the Prophet ﷺ, but also our society. And we're gonna talk about it, inshallah. So it was one of the deepest principles in Islamic ethics, because that verse that we're going to talk about it, inshallah, it was not only about orphans. It did not only organize, it did not only set principles and rules for the orphans, but orphans here represent anyone who is no protector or support. It represents every vulnerable person who had no one to defend, who had no means of income. How to build a functioning moral society. How to balance between the fear of sin and responsibility. Because some people say, oh, I don't want to listen. This is something very important. And shaitan comes here and tells, even the shaitan will come and tell a person, I don't want to learn. Why you don't want to learn? You ask people, I don't want to learn. Why? Because I don't want to know and then not being able to apply. I don't want that sin of knowing and not applying. So, or because maybe I'm not gonna take that responsibility to the level that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I'm not gonna take that responsibility. The fear of sin, how to balance the fear of sin with the responsibility, how you continue to have the courage to do what you need to do, yet maybe I will make mistakes. Maybe I'm not gonna do what I believe it deserves to be done. So the Sahaba wanted that. And what is so amazing in that verse also, that Allah included intention in it, and how mercy and law interact. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent them the answer. They ask you, O Prophet, about the orphans. Say, it is best to do good to them. And if you live among them, mix your affair with their affairs. Mix your mix your money. Then they are your brothers. And Allah knows well who is the one seeking corruption and who is the one seeking improvement for them. And if Allah will, He could put you in difficulty. Indeed, Allah is mighty and wise. Let's talk a little bit about the linguistic here and key words in that verse. We talked about yatim. Yatim, as we said, yatim is the one, or is a child who did not reach puberty yet, and he is the one who lost his father. Because in Islam, the yatim is the one who has no father, because the father is the means for financial support, is the means that Allah give him the obligation to defend his family and to spend money on his family, and this is the yatim. And that's why they say, subhanallah, there is a poet who talks about the yatim. His father is alive and he's still yatim. And those fathers who don't take care of their children, don't support them financially, don't support them emotionally, don't teach them anything. Poet considered those children aitam also, because their father they are not doing their duty when it comes to their children, subhanallah. So yatim is the one who lost his father. What is the translation? Islahul lahum khair. Islahul lahum khair mean to do good to them. The root of give welfare, to improve moral and material condition. This is islah, to improve their situation, to do good to them. وَإِن تُخَالِطُوهُم mean to mingle your affair with their affair. And not necessarily financial here, but in the context of orphan, everything. We talk about food, we talk about drink, daily life. Of course, إخوانكم here is not biological, it's not meant for biological mean or biological how can I say side, but it is metaphorically. They are here establishing what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're going to talk about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding them that before they are an orphan, before they are the children of another man, you have to form with them the bond of brotherhood. How important it is. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more, because this is a concept that we need to really bring into our life. In what way? How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, listen, to do good to them, and to do good is better than not to do anything at all. So this is a principle that we're going to learn. Khalas? Let me go by the verses one by one to be easier for all of us, inshallah. So Ibn Kathir, when it comes to the answer, إصلاح لهم خير, to improvement for them is better, is best. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they ask about the orphan, and of course when they ask about the orphan, they ask about everything that I mentioned. How can we deal with them without committing a sin? Can we mix their food with our food? How can we avoid this major sin? If you eat anything because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَأْكُلُونَ أَمْوَالَ الْيَتَامَى, whoever will consume anything from their property, he's only consuming fire. So who will want that? So they didn't want the kind of responsibility, and they asked about that. So they wanted the reward, but it's hard for them to face that kind of punishment if they fall into it. So Allah answered what? He answered with this amazing balance. He said, no, look at always doing the good is better than not do anything at all. Even if you're going to be short in what you're doing, even if you're going to make mistakes in what you're doing. They say a wet ship is better than a perfect ship on the sand. If you have a ship, people, they don't want to take risk. They want to always stay on the shores, clean and nice and neat and perfect in the eyes of others. Then to go through the hardship, then to go through the experiences, then to be scratched a little bit, then to fall on your faces a little bit, then to get up and go back again. They don't want to have this kind of insecurity. They want to be perfect. And this kind of imperfection irritating them, so they will take the easy way out. I don't want to do that. Khalas. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no, do good, even if you're going to do mistakes, because it's better to do good than do nothing. Khalas. وَإِن تُخَالِطُوهُمْ فَإِخْوَانُكُمْ, and if you mix with them, they are your brothers. Here, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about brothers, He talks about the brotherhood of humanity, the brotherhood of Islam. So those orphans, they have two levels of brotherhood. Brotherhood in humanity, which all of us, we have also to think about. And the second brotherhood is what? For them, is a deeper brotherhood, is a brotherhood of religion. That both of them. So before they are children or children of others, they are your brothers in Islam. And this is something also, is so beautiful to take it when it comes to relationship. When you think of your siblings, they are your sisters and brothers in Islam before they were your siblings, your husband, your spouse, they are your brothers in Islam. And if you take them with that concept in mind, Everything that the Prophet talked about brotherhood and the right of brotherhood implied to them. So if the Prophet ﷺ said, love for your brother what you love for yourself. Of course, he means brother and sister here. Love for your brother when you love what you love for yourself. Imagine if every spouse will love for his wife, for his wife, or a wife for her brother, for her husband, what she loves for herself. The same thing with siblings, the same thing with friends. So before we took these roles in life, the role of a wife, the role of a husband, the role of a brother or sister, the role of a worker in the community, the role of imam, the role of sheikh. These roles are temporary. But what is lasting is, what is the foundation is the brotherhood that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala joined all Muslims under this kind of umbrella. If I'm thinking of that, it will fix a lot of my mindset. It's an amazing mindset that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set up here, that those are your brother. Okay, so are those my brothers in Islam? Imagine a man or a family taking a 3, 4, 5-year-old to take care of in the house. Oh my God, think of him as your brother in Islam. Think of your children as your brothers and sisters in Islam. Don't the roles that they came into dunya with that role, it's just a temporary, but they are there to test that foundation of brotherhood in Islam. What you're gonna teach him? How you're gonna clothe them? What subhanallah you gonna? This is very important. Imagine that. Imagine that. So this is amazing set. Just that verse is incredible, genius, subhanallah. So this verse encourages guardianship, to treat orphan not as a burden, so but as brothers in faith. And was amazing. And it promotes a model of integrated care rather than just detached custody. It's a responsibility. And all of us, we know how much sometimes we are sick and tired of responsibility. We don't want to take responsibility. It's too much on our back, even sometimes for our children, even sometimes for our parents but imagine if we take it with that mindset, it will be different. So here, the meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no, mix the food, mix the money, mix the living arrangement, treat them like your own family. So Allah make it easier. And then he said, Islahun lahum khair. It's not about Islahun lahum khair mean what? What does Islah mean? Improve their life. The improvement in general, not about money. Abu Hurairah used to teach them the Quran, used to teach them the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, make them sit next to him. He give them this kind of the emotional attachment that they need. Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu used to support them financially. Sahaba used to teach them how to, subhanallah, how to fight, how to ride horses. So here you can see the kind of reform, the kind of improvement in every aspect of their upbringing. And this was important, subhanallah. So the mercy here is what? That the commentator like Imam al-Qurtubi, like Imam ibn Kathir, they highlight that this verse represents what? A merciful concession. Guardians are not required to isolate orphans, subhanallah, from life. They can mix it in a way that benefit the orphans. طيب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ الْمُصْلِحْ مِنَ الْمُفْسِدِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the one who will treat them. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ الْمُفْسِدِ مِنَ الْمُصْلِحِ. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the one who mix with them, mix their money, mix their affair with them, only to improve their life, from the mufsid, the one who corrupt, who does the same act, apparently the same act, but he has a beneficial gain inside. So you can see here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He give them this capability, this ease. He released them from the hardship. They wanted to do this act of worship. They wanted this kind of reward from the Prophet. They wanted to be with their Prophet. I want to take care of an orphan because I want to be with you, Ya Rasulullah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is the one who answers. So when Allah answers something, He's giving you all the side of it, all the highest perspective about it. I want you to understand there is a bond of brotherhood here. I want you to understand that is not the matter of your apparent actions here, but intention has to come into it. Guard your intention. So I'm giving you this ease, and and everyone will do this kind of action, apparently the same action, but as if Allah say, but I am the only one who's going to know where is your intention when you do what you do. So here he introduced another something, another dimension into the verse, which is the niyyah. How the intention is crucial when you deal with the orphans, when you deal with authority, when you deal with power, the ethics. And here when we talk about power, it's not about only the power toward the powerless. Your children at that young age are powerless. If you are a stepmother, there is a power. The children here is powerless. When you are a person holding a leadership in the community versus the one who has no authority in the community, this is also a power ethics that all of us we have to pay attention to. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them what? He's giving them this: guard your intention. Do whatever you want to do to ease your mission when it comes to that, but guard your intention. And this good intention will produce a practical, will come to produce practical solution for your problem. خلاص. So the Sahaba here were concerned also when this verse came, that, oh my God, we need to judge the intention, how hard it is, the intention. So they were terrified also from accidentally committing injustice. Maybe their good intention might not save them, maybe they cannot trust their intention. But see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, He eased their fear, and He said, Allah knows what's inside your heart. So here, going back to every action we do, is not enough that you focus on the outward action. It's not enough to do that. It's very important to always guarding your heart. Always see where your heart is, from the beginning of what you do to the middle to the end, until you wrap this beautiful work that you did and give it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You need to wrap that with taqwa. You need to wrap this gift. You know, when you go and buy a gift, and then you go to pick a wrap, and you wrap this gift. People wrap the gift differently. I mean, so some people won't even wrap the gift. As if they can't, خلاص, I bought whatever I bought, and they put the least of effort wrapping the gift. Even though wrapping the gift, it shows sometimes how precious the ones that you are giving the gift to. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also, you wrap for Him your gift. You do a good deed, you do deeds, whether salah, whether fasting, whether mandatory deeds or voluntary deed. At the end, Allah wants to see how we're going to wrap that. Which wrap you're going to give it to in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The wrap of ihsan, that you're doing the best to wrap it beautifully. The wrap of taqwa. And this is what Allah wants. And all of that, whether sincerity, whether taqwa, whether whatever it is, whether faith, it's all of it inside the heart. If the heart is motivated, the heart, subhanAllah, you see the action is given. And that's why you can see Imam al-Qurtubi, he put the legal principle here out of this verse, and he established this principle. He said action concerning wealth take their rulings from intention here. So when it comes to the wealth of the orphans, intention is major, even if you make mistakes, And this is where the like I said, the verse was revolutionary for the Sahaba, because it shows, it gives this this ruling that say being overly strict can sometimes cause harm. And Islam wants this balance between the intention, yet the mercy, and yet the justice.
And
And
then
this is what, yes,
yeah, I don't want to interrupt you, but we have 7 minutes, but I have a couple of questions.
sure.
So in a few minutes, because I don't want you to get cut off, but the girl and the boy, what is the age when they're not orphans anymore? I don't know if you can
Both of
answer
them
that.
when they reach puberty.
For both of
When
the
they,
boys and the girl?
yes, yes.
Okay, and then another question. I don't know if you were able to answer this one, but maybe you could. If this is from a mother, like if she has children, but she has no, she has, you know how you said that it would go to the grandfather or then the uncle. Let's
Yes.
say they only have the uncle, but the uncle is lost and will take that money and use it for haram instead of helping them. Does the money still go to them? I don't know if we can answer that. What do you see?
I think this is, listen,
More for us.
here,
For us, yeah.
if she lives here, I'm not going to answer that, of course, because there is imams and shuyukh.
Yes.
But these are rules that it's put as laws in the blad. Okay. Now, I think now there is a fuqaha who can answer this question. And I remember we had stories that is really heartbroken because a wife did that and all her money were taken. She had nothing, and they were really, yani. So I don't know, but I believe that fuqaha and imam and shuyukh. But also, when you ask anyone about that, please make sure you ask the right person. Not every sheikh is a faqih.
Yeah.
the way.
What we could do is I can email the person.
Yeah,
Inshallah.
not every sheikh is a faqih.
Yeah. Inshallah.
We have to understand that. You have to ask fuqaha, and fuqaha, they will tell you exactly what you need to do.
And for the
طيب.
person, if they want, they can always just email like the Bridgeview Mosque or the mosques in
Like I said, I'm
areas.
repeating again. You go, not every sheikh is a faqih at all. A faqih is a person who has this kind of broader understanding, who is able to compare who can able to see the life that we live in, and able to really understand the law of this country, and able to understand human being and the changes they are. Look at the time of the Sahaba, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, look how much they were careful about money of the orphan. Now, do we have the same human beings? Allahu A'lam. But la darar wa la dirar. There is a higher ruling here that be careful, don't harm yourself and don't harm others. Everyone has to take his rights. Khalas. When we talk about guardianship here, we're not talking about inheritance also. We have to differentiate between inheritance and between guardianship.
Oh, that's a good point.
The inheritance is you give as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mandate. So if my husband died and his father is still alive, you owe him to give him from his son's inheritance and money. Now, do you have to give him guardianship? This is another story. It's not the same. You understand? Especially if this father is not living here, he doesn't understand here, he is not the one really managing the life. So you have to be very careful when it comes to that. خلاص. So يعني inshallah, if there is another, طبعا all that I'm going to talk about, like I said, when we talk about here the community and about the ones that we need to take care of, we talk about the refugees, for instance, the single mothers who's taking care of her kids. All of that are considered under the orphans when it comes to taking care and pay attention to their money. The converts who have no support, like I said, all the orphans, they go under that. So if we can, subhanAllah, summarize the verses, you can see that the entire dilemma beautifully was addressed. Life lifted hardship. You mix with them. He restored family. They are your brothers, protected the orphan. They protected the sincere also guardian, the guardian. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated that. Set intention as a foundation of financial ethics, and this is all the stuff mentioned in the verse. There's a lot of طبعا, a lot of wisdom and a lot of lessons learned, but we don't have time for that. And I will open to another question if we have one more question left.
No, that's the two questions, and Jazkallahkheir, you answered the questions very nicely.
Okay. At the end, alhamdulillah, at the end, Allah say Aziz al-Hakim. This is something very important.
We
At
got
the
2
end,
minutes.
He say, focus on that meaning. Anything, focus on that meaning. And when Allah say, I'm setting rules because I am Aziz, I am Hakim. Hakim mean that the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In every Sharia, there is a wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, we have to understand when the set of Sharia هنا, from my own study, every element of fiqh has totally different opinions. You see, one matter of fiqh has many scholarly opinion. Yet when you go to ask, they will give you one. And they will insist you that this is the only one. And that's why you have to be very careful when you ask about matters that are important. You don't ask one, you don't ask two. Go and ask fuqaha and ask about faqih. Don't ask about imam, don't go to imam, don't go to any sheikh. Don't go to people who study, who have broader mindset, who understand the laws, and they can compare between fiqh issues. And this is very important. And I will advise you also, anyone who has fiqh, the books now are open. You can read the books. You can put them at trying to get where this issue is written. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, guide all of us. And whoever asks something, يعني, people will guide, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
Jazkallahkheir, Habibti. Okay, we're gonna get cut off, so I'll end it. Thanks. Assalamu alaikum. And that wraps up today's episode. We hope you found it beneficial and enjoyed tuning in. Your feedback is always welcome. Whether you have questions, comments, or suggestions, feel free to share the live and email us anytime at almuminat@gmail.com. And don't forget to continue sharing our podcast to others. Our aim is to guide and enlighten the ummah. Special thanks to Sister Hanan for hosting us today. May Allah reward you. Thank you for listening. And we look forward to having you with us at our next episode. Until then, take care and stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa